Okay, so up to this point, we've learned how to do lots of things with our left hand. We've learned how to play melodies. We've learned how to make chords. We've learned how to switch between chords, but we haven't spent much time with working with our right hand. In fact, all we've really done have been downstrokes, whether we're playing lead parts or strumming chords. We've just been using downstrokes. I'm going to change that now, and we're going to use alternate picking or alternate strumming. And by alternate, I mean downstrokes and upstrokes. To demonstrate the upstroke, if I play a G chord, just using a downstroke like we've been doing, to play another downstroke, my hand has to come all the way back up to the top, reset, play another one, all the way back up. And what's happening there is I'm not taking advantage of my pick passing over the strings. So every time I bring my pick up and don't take advantage of that, that's a waste of energy, really. So the upstroke is kind of the complete opposite of the downstroke. It's grabbing those strings on its way back up. So you can imagine the combination of the two. You can, double your speed without creating any extra effort. In fact, that's just as much effort as this. If you look at what's going on with my right hand compared to. So, the upstroke, very important, and it's something we're going to use from this point forward. Now, if you look on your screen, you'll see the name of the MP3 file that pertains to this lesson. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that original song that I created, and we've already played through it. Hopefully by now you've been able to keep up with it, playing the just those 5 chords that we've learned. And when we played it before, we played it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So we played on every beat of the measure. This time we're going to play that same song, but we're going to double it up. So we're going to play on the offbeats as well. So we're going to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it sounds like it should be a lot more complicated, but it's really not. Your right hand isn't doing that much more. The only difference is you're taking advantage of that upstroke. And one thing to point out, when you do a downstroke, your hand naturally tilts a little bit so that the pick can rake across the strings. Well, to do an upstroke, your hand is going to have to kind of tilt a little bit. Now, I'm exaggerating it to kind of prove a point, but it's going to have to tilt again so that, or sort of the opposite way, so that you can rake this way. So what it ends up looking like is almost like like you're painting on a canvas. If you look at my hand, and most of that action is happening at the wrist, you have to be kind of limp-wristed. And that's what it looks like. So, you'll probably want to practice that. And that may not come naturally in the beginning. I honestly don't remember. I don't remember struggling too much with that, but I'm sure that that could be a challenge for some of you. So the one thing to make sure you're not doing is being locked at the elbow and strumming rigidly. It won't work. If your pick is at an angle like that, and you try and come back up for an upstroke, your pick is actually going to dig into the strings. So it's all about just being very loosey-goosey with your hand while holding onto the pick. You can't be too loose or you'll drop the pick. So so we're going to go over that original song. Now, one other thing to point out, I have put together MP3s for the other 2 songs, Yankee Doodle and When the Saints Go Marching In, also using the same strum pattern. So When the Saints would sound like this. Now I'm playing a little fast. But it's down, up, down, up, down, up. And that is really the only pattern we're going to use in this lesson. But the same thing for Yankee Doodle. So hopefully you'll go ahead and download or you'll practice along with those MP3s as well. And there's also Tablature for all of this. So that's all on this page. You can download all the tab that you need and all the songs. I've also got the slower versions of all of the songs. So if you need to play that at a slow tempo, which may not be a bad idea in the beginning, feel free to do so. Now, one other thing to point out before I play along with this song has the original. If you remember, there's a point sort of at the end of it, at the end of the chord progression, where it goes back to a D, and it stays on that D for 2 measures. So it comes out, it's after the C, you play the D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's kind of a long time to just hang out on a D and not do anything else. So one trick that you'll see lots of guitar players use, and hopefully you'll start using too, is now we're going to go back to the sus chords. I don't know if you remember. Hopefully you do. If you don't, go back and watch that video again. But we're going to introduce the D sus4, and by sus I mean it's sus is short for suspended, so it's a suspended chord. And all a D sus4 is, as a quick review, this is your D. For a D sus4, you take your pinky, which isn't doing anything anyway, and you put it on the first string, 3rd fret, to create that sound. And so what you end up doing with that is you'll, depending on how you put your pinky down or release it, you get this kind of a cool sound with the D. So it makes the D sound a lot more interesting. It's kind of boring just to stay on the D. And you hear guitar players that do this all the time. You can do it with other chords, but we're just going to work with the D for now. So that's what we're going to do with this song as well. So when we get to that D part at the end, it's going to sound like this. So here it is in slow motion. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So it comes in on the and, releases on the and. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So that's just something to listen for. You'll hear it when I go through this demonstration, but try and start using that when you're playing a D chord and you're holding it out. It's kind of, and you'll hear that, that probably sounds familiar. You can probably think of lots of songs where you hear that. So just that's something to listen for. So I'll go ahead and play along with it now. 1, 2, 3. Comes. And you can see it just obviously repeats, but that's what the D sus4 sounds like. So you're kind of doing 2 things with this lesson. It's actually a lot to digest. You're doing the downstrokes and upstrokes. Now that may be a little fast for you when you first start this. I would probably start with the slower tempo version to try and get the down and upstroke. One other last thing to pay attention to when you're doing upstrokes is, just like you have to do with a downstroke on certain chords, you're not playing all the strings. So like on a D, for example, you're only playing 4. You're not playing the bottom 2, the 5th string or the 6th string. And when you're playing your upstroke, you can't play those either. So that's something that you may have a tendency in the beginning to want to try and rake across all of them. So that only comes with practice. You just gotta. And the other thing to point out is on the upstroke, you don't necessarily have to play all 4 every time. I think timing is more important than absolute accuracy on the upstroke. The upstroke is just, it's creating a rhythm. And if you drop the rhythm, people are going to hear it with their ear. But if in other words, with a D chord, for example, I'm pretty accurate on my downstrokes, but on the upstrokes, I don't know that I hit all four every time, especially if I'm playing something fast. So try to be as accurate as you can, and definitely don't overstep or play too many strings. But even if you're only hitting the top 2 or 3, that's probably okay as long as you get the rhythm down. So have fun with this lesson, and we'll move on and we'll start playing some other interesting strumming patterns.